Our journey begins at the base of one of Canyonlands' most infamous four-wheel drive trails, Elephant Hill. With 3 Jeeps in our group, we rolled out from the trailhead, ready to take on sandstone, slickrock, and steep climbs. If you're into off-road trail stories, scenic routes, and Jeep adventures, hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more coming your way. We climbed over the sun-baked Navajo sandstone, smooth in some places, broken and chunky in others. This formation was once part of a massive desert of shifting dunes, now turned to rock over 180 million years. It's grippy, but uneven, with just enough ledges and off-camber spots to keep things interesting.
This trail makes you work for it. After the steep climb up out of the trailhead, you enter the round table, which is a level spot halfway up the hill where, yes, you actually have to turn around before heading up the switchback. It's a strange start to an even stranger road, and we were all in. It's the kind of obstacle that looks simple until you're the one pulling up toward a ledge you can't see over your hood.
You can even spot the trail's namesake, the Elephant Rock Formation, peeking over the sandstone wall. Watching each Jeep pivot on the round table is a bit like a slow-motion trail ballet. Tight moves, careful spotting, and a whole lot of trust.
From the round table, the trail keeps climbing, over a couple of small ledges, and up a stretch of white sandstone.
These domes were once ancient sand dunes, sculpted by wind and time into the grippy slickrock we're crawling over now. It's solid under your tires, but the ledges come quick, and the climb gets bumpy.
The top flattens out for a bit, giving us a moment to catch our breath, but don't let it fool you. It'll rattle your teeth if you're not aired down.
Maybe you're asking, where's the real challenge? Don't worry. That's just ahead. The descent on the other side of this hill is where things get tight, steep, and seriously fun.
We squeezed our way down through tight, white sandstone, carefully working our way to a small flat spot just before the big descent. It's a tight turn and a steep line, so we took a moment to reposition the Jeep to align with the drop.
If you're watching closely, you might notice a few patches of concrete along the way. That's courtesy of the National Park Service, just enough reinforcement to keep this trail passable, without making it too easy. It's their version of trail maintenance, and honestly, we're not complaining.
We paused again to let the other 2 Jeeps make their way through the tight turn, carefully crawling down the chunky, broken sandstone. The descent is steep and uneven, with just enough loose rock to keep you alert. At the bottom, the trail funnels toward what Elephant Hill is best known for, the switchbacks.
These aren't your average switchbacks. If you're driving a four-door, like we all were, you won't make the turn in one shot. In fact, even short wheelbase rigs sometimes have to pull forward to the sign, then reverse down into the switchback.
Driving backwards on a narrow shelf road with nothing but a steep canyon on your side, it's a little unnerving. But with good spotting, steady nerves, and plenty of patience, we each made it through, one Jeep at a time.
It's a rite of passage on Elephant Hill, and it definitely gets your attention.
Elephant Hill is one of the few trails in the national park system that's open to 4x4s, but it comes with strict limits. The National Park Service only allows 3 vehicles on the trail at a time. They do make an exception for the Red Rock four-wheelers during organized events, but we weren't with them this time.
Driver! Driver! Straighten out! Perfect.
To run the trail, you've got to go online and get a permit the day before your trip. It's all managed through the Canyonlands backcountry reservation system, and the rangers take it seriously. Before we hit the trail, one of them made sure we had our permit in hand and were good to go.
After dropping down the ledges and reaching the bottom of the hill, the trail threads into a narrow wash that transitions into a one-way section. It's a brief change of pace, smoother, with packed sand and just enough room to relax your shoulders.
But it doesn't last long. The trail climbs sharply over a broken canyon wall and drops us into the next section.
On the other side, it flattens again, just long enough to lull you into thinking the tough stuff is over.
But the slick rock returns, and this time, it's chunkier. The trail weaves through a tight corridor where enormous boulders rise up beside us, some so close they nearly brush the roof. These things absolutely dwarf the Jeeps, towering on either side like sentinels watching us squeeze through.
As we climbed higher, the trail ran along a towering sandstone wall rising on the passenger side. On the driver's side, the other canyon wall stood farther away, but between us and that distant wall was a mess of rugged terrain, broken rock, scattered ledges, and steep drop-offs.
The trail itself worked upward over uneven sandstone ledges, requiring careful throttle and tire placement in a few places. Every move felt magnified between those towering rock corridors.
At the top, the trail throws in one more test, a sloped, off-camber descent over a series of small ledges. One tire dips, then the next, as you squeeze past.
And just like that, it eases up. The sand smooths out and the landscape opens slightly, marking our approach to one of Elephant Hill's signature spots, the Devil's Pocket.
Oh, look, she needs guiding through there.
Of course, right as we got to Devil's Pocket, our camera started acting up. Battery low, overheating, the usual trail day luck, but we managed to capture just enough to show what makes this obstacle memorable.
Here you go, little driver.
It's a tight squeeze, with sheer sandstone pressing in from both sides. You've got to hug the line, ease through the narrow pinch, and trust your spotter.
Grab it.
It's not the most technical obstacle on the trail, but the margin for error is slim, and the sandstone doesn't care about your paint job.
Once all 3 Jeeps made it through, we regrouped, put in some fresh batteries, and continued on. Ahead was one of the trail's most infamous sections, SOB Hill, and it definitely earns its name.
SOB Hill isn't really a hill, it's more like a narrow gap carved between 2 valleys. The trail rises gently at first, then throws in a sharp left-hand turn in the middle of the tall rock walls. That's where things get interesting.
For longer rigs, like our 4-door Jeeps, that turn usually means backing up at least once to make the angle. You can pull into the sign on the right and back down, but we'd rather not.
We've driven this obstacle before, and over the years, SOB Hill has changed. The drop on the left has filled in with sand. It's not quite as aggressive as it used to be, but it still keeps you on your toes.
Back up. Hard driver. Stay right there. There. A little bit passenger. Perfect. Straighten up. Coming. Coming. Keep going. A little bit more. Stop. A little bit passenger. Little passenger. Straighten out. Okay. Right there. Good. Now, little driver.
Once we were all through the gap, the trail dropped us back into the next valley as we continued heading south into the heart of the Needles toward the joint parking area. But this trip, I had something different in mind. At the junction near the joint trail turnoff, we had a decision to make. Instead of heading left toward the popular hiking area, we veered right, following a less traveled road that led toward something I'd spotted on the map, Horsehoof Campsite.
The road carves its way through a narrow canyon. We drove by the towering rock formations with spires shaped by the wind, along a wash contained by rugged sandstone walls. The first obstacle is a big boulder on the right that comes really close to the top of your rig. Definitely one of those slow and easy moments to avoid a surprise rooftop scrape. The scenery is unreal. Towering spires, layered rock, and wide open sky. It feels completely different from anywhere else in Canyonlands. Not far beyond that, there's another squeeze, this time with a dead tree twisted tightly around a boulder. The tree leans in just enough to make you hold your breath as it brushes past your roof. After that, the trail drops into a sandy wash and follows it for a stretch. It's smooth here, one of the few spots where you can relax a bit and just take in the views. A little farther on, there's a descent that doesn't look like much on camera, but it's got an awkward drop on the side that leans you toward to yet another boulder. Definitely one to take slow and spot if needed. Oops. Looks like we got a little dust on the camera. Off to the side, you'll spot one of the more imaginatively shaped spires in the park. We'll just say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Just beyond that, we roll past the road to the Bobby Joe Campsite, another remote backcountry site tucked into the Needles. Then we make the turnoff toward Horsehoof Camp. It's isolated, scenic, and takes some effort to reach, but that's part of the magic out here.
As we continued down the road toward Horsehoof Campsite, the landscape began to shift. The open slickrock and bare sandstone gave way to patches of green, and suddenly, we found ourselves weaving through stands of Utah juniper. These hardy desert trees are right at home here, twisted, weathered, and growing wherever they can find a crack in the rock. It gave the trail a totally different feel, like we'd entered a hidden pocket of life tucked into the sandstone. Through the trees, we started catching glimpses of something special, tall spires and balanced rocks peeking through the branches like sentinels. It felt like we were entering a secret corner of the park, one that doesn't show up in all the guidebooks. As we passed another twisted juniper, the view opened up, and there they were. Towering sandstone spires rising all around the campsite, like silent sentinels standing guard over the land. It was one of those moments where the trail rewards you, not just with a place to rest, but with a view that reminds you why you came out here in the first place.
We parked and took some time to wonder. I snapped a few photos of the balanced rocks and sculpted spires surrounding the site. Off in the distance, the cliffs of the other Canyonlands districts rose in layered bands of red and gold, stretching out to the northwest like a fortress built by time. It's easy to feel small out here, and that's kind of the point.
After a short break, we loaded back up and continued south toward the junction with Deep Basin Road. From there, we turned north, retracing our path toward the joint trail turnoff. Along the way, we couldn't help but stare at the strange and stunning shapes surrounding us. Towering spires, balanced rocks, and wind-carved sandstone, it's like nature's own sculpture garden.
Most of these formations began forming over 200 million years ago. Layers of sandstone, like the Cedar Mesa and Navajo formations, were slowly uplifted, tilted, and cracked by tectonic forces. Wind and water took over from there, eroding the softer rock and leaving behind the pillars and perched boulders we see today. Some of these rocks have been teetering for centuries, somehow holding their place against the odds. It's a reminder of just how patient and powerful erosion really is.
Eventually, the scenery gave way to something a little more immediate, SOB Hill again. Only this time, we were heading the other direction. A sharp passenger side turn made things just as tricky going back through. We pulled in close to the rock wall on the driver's side, backed up just enough to make the sharp turn, and worked our way through the gap. None of us had any real issues this time, but it's a spot that demands clearance and careful tire placement. For longer or lower rigs, it can turn into a real challenge.
A little bit more. Okay. Yeah, I believe you're clear. Go ahead. A little bit more. A little more. There. So you can kiss that. A little more. Awesome.
After clearing SOB Hill, the trail mellowed out for a bit as we followed a smooth stretch called the Devil's Racetrack. Compared to what came before, it felt like cruising. We then found ourselves in another narrow passage between rock walls. This one wasn't quite as tight as Devil's Pocket, but it had its own character. The sandstone walls here were streaked black, likely desert varnish, a natural coating of minerals that forms over thousands of years in the desert sun.
Unlike other tight spots we passed, this one didn't have a bunch of scrape marks from sliders or mirrors, which was a relief. We threaded through cleanly, with tumbleweeds piled quietly along the base of the walls like they were just waiting for a strong wind. A few more turns, and we were heading toward the next landmark, the Silver Stairs.
The Silver Stairs were named for the pale white sandstone ledges that stepped their way down by the red sandstone walls. The contrast is striking, and in the right light, those bright steps almost shimmer against the surrounding rock. It's not the hardest obstacle on the trail, however it does demand your attention. The drop is gradual, but it's easy to misplace a tire if you're not dialed in. Our group handled the descent with ease, smooth lines, careful tire placement, and steady throttle.
Just when we thought the steps were behind us, the trail threw in one last descent before returning to the base of Elephant Hill. There are two options here. One is a steep, waterfall-style drop that looks dramatic in photos, but can be rough on your rig.
The other is a bypass. It's not as steep and requires you to make a sharp turn.
All three of us took the bypass. None of us felt like testing our bumpers after a long day on the trail.
After that, it was back down some rippled sandstone. This was the final obstacle of the loop before heading back to the base of Elephant Hill.
After a long day on the trail, Elephant Hill gave us one last test. Climb back up wastes no time, starting with a couple of sandstone shelves that demand your focus, even when you're feeling worn out.
One more shelf bump and we pulled up to the first sign. But instead of continuing forward, the trail calls for something unusual. You actually back up towards the switchback. It feels strange, pointing your rear bumper uphill, but for 4 doors, that's the only reasonable way to line up for the next climb.
Each Jeep in our group waited for their turn, giving the one ahead enough space to back up safely. There's no rushing this part. It's one at a time, slow and steady.
At the second sign, we turned slightly toward the driver's side and lined up for the final push.
This section is steep, narrow, and chunky. We pulled far enough ahead for each Jeep in the group to reach the second sign and get set for their climb.
From there, the trail cuts sharply to the driver's side, climbing uphill through a few narrow spots where careful tire placement makes all the difference.
Climbing back up, the perspective felt completely different from when we came down earlier in the day. The switchbacks looked steeper, the turns tighter, and the ledges somehow larger. Obstacles always seem bigger when you're looking at them from below, but the camera never truly does it justice.
The steepest part of the hill is the final approach to the flat spot near the top. Our first attempt came up short, so we gave it a little Moab bump to power up the hill.
Once on the flat spot, we repositioned to climb the last short stretch and waited for the rest of the group to catch up.
Just pull off wherever.
With all 3 Jeeps back together, we paused briefly at the top of Elephant Hill, taking a moment to appreciate the view and the trail we'd just conquered.
From the top of Elephant Hill, the trail gave us one last smooth and scenic stretch as we crossed the ridge. The day was winding down, and the light had started to shift.
We dropped back onto the white Navajo sandstone, winding past the Elephant Rock Formation once again. Its familiar shape was a welcome sight against the afternoon sky.
We followed the narrow ledge down toward the round table, carefully making our way onto the flat slab once again. From there, we could see the trailhead parking lot below, much quieter now than it was that morning.
The sun hung lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the sandstone and filling the valley with a warm, golden light.
One by one, we worked our way through the round table, just like before. Then it was down the final rocky descent to the trailhead. After a long day on the trail, it felt good to be back where we started.
For the other 2 Jeeps in our group, this was their first time running Elephant Hill, a trail they'd been wanting to check off their list for a while. We were happy to guide them through it and share one of our favorite places with good company. But the adventure doesn't stop here. Today, we tackled one of the most iconic 4x4 trails in Canyonlands National Park, Elephant Hill. We navigated steep sandstone ledges, tight switchbacks, and narrow rock corridors. We shared the trail with friends experiencing it for the first time, explored hidden campsites surrounded by towering spires, and enjoyed the quiet beauty of the Utah backcountry.
We cruised out on the flat dirt road, eventually meeting the pavement, where we aired up the tires and packed away the day's dust. The drive back took us through the wide, beautiful valley with the red cliffs glowing in the afternoon light, and about 90 minutes later, we rolled back into Morale.
Thanks for coming along with us on this journey. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. We're Janet Granite Jeep, sharing off-road trails, scenic places, and stories from the trail. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the journey, and we'll see you out along the trails we travel.